Welcome to Accounting Life with Jotham Ty. Our guest today is Barrett Daniels, partner and US IPO Services Co-Leader for Deloitte. In this episode, Jotham and Barrett discuss IPO trends in 2025, how market volatility impacts public offerings, and how AI is transforming IPO readiness in financial reporting. Now, our host, Jotham Ty.
Hey Barrett, welcome back to the Accounting Life podcast. How are you? Good to have you back on the show again.
Hey, Jotham, it's great to be back. Looking forward to chatting with you as always.
Same here. A couple months now into 2025, I know a lot of our audience members or accounting leaders always have an eye in the IPO market. So we figured having someone like you on could shed a little light on what's going on in the market. So, maybe just to dive right in. What does it feel like in 2025 so far, and how does it compare to, say, last year in 2024?
I think it's a really good question. I'm getting it a lot, right? It still feels like it might be a little bit better than 2024. But if I go back in time, like 3 months, 6 months, like sitting here where I am today, it's a bit of a disappointment, if I'm honest. Like it felt like there was significant momentum leading up into towards the end of last year. And then the first part of this year, January, February were super exciting. My phone was ringing off the hook. It felt like we were on the verge of a possible explosion of activity. But things have been a bit, up and down. It's been this roller coaster for the last couple of months. And, when it comes to the IPO market, up is good, down's not great, right? What we really want to avoid, though, the real trouble is the roller coaster, the volatility, the up and down, and ultimately the uncertainty, right? And I've said this a million times, uncertainty is the enemy of the IPO. And you see it with the volatility is really low. There's often more interest in the IPO market. And right now, volatility has been ticking up. It's had its moments over the years, but this feels a bit of a longer leg of this volatility activity that we're seeing. So all that to say, like, it's very unclear. Like, my sense is that it's going to be a decent year. It's going to be probably similar to last year. There's some really exciting IPOs that seem to be in the pipeline looking to get out here in the not too distant future, which are super exciting. And oftentimes those will be a catalyst for others. But where I sit right now, it appears that outside of these super exciting ones we're seeing, I'm not seeing quite the activity that I was hoping to see for the back half of 2025. So but I hear from a lot of my friends in this space that the back half of 2025 might be really nice. So who knows, maybe I'm famously wrong here, but it feels like for the last 3 years, it's been 6 months away, right? It's right around the corner. Yeah. Everything comes back. And I think I'm just tired of that conversation. I'm not sure I buy it anymore, right? So I'm a little reluctant to get too excited, but there is a chance. There is a chance that things get exciting. But it feels like it's going to be just another kind of plodding year.
Well, I'm going to take away, I'm going to strip out the optimism that I heard in the back half of 2025. And certainly for someone like me, obviously I run a software company, and part of our ICP are these pre-IPO companies looking to level up their automation platforms in accounting specifically. So we do keep a close eye on what's happening in the IPO market, and I'm gonna again take out that level of optimism that you shared in the back half, because it sounds like what you described is, I think at least us founders we're definitely sensing that as well, and that it wasn't as hot as we had expected to start out 2025. But obviously there's a lot of volatility in the macroeconomic situation, and obviously some of the things that are going on in the news.
In environments like this, we just often see companies just will sit on the fence and wait and see how all of this plays out. And I think that's a very fair way to do it, right? Like, but at the same time, there are some companies that are just so big and so impressive and so ready to go that they can go whenever they want, right? They could go tomorrow. They could go when the windows are terrible. Some companies don't need windows. But the bulk of the companies that are looking to go public do need a decent window, or at least would really prefer to have a really decent window. And the signs are there, like that the IPO market could be receptive. And like I said, for these nice companies, it clearly will be. But it's just unclear. And it's that uncertainty that really is sort of causing a bit of, a stomach ache at the moment.
Bear, that's always an important place to start in our conversations that we've had in the past. And because what we typically do in our conversations is laser in on how all of this impacts and how like accounting leaders should think about the movement in the IPO market. So along those lines, like are there any particular trends or updates that are specifically relevant for accounting leaders as it relates to the IPO markets?
Right now, it's all AI all the time, right? Like AI has been the driving force behind the venture markets, right? And I think eventually it will be the driving force behind the IPO market. These companies are still growing, and we're seeing some of them tap the IPO markets already. Some of the native AI companies, right? Like, so it is exciting times as we see those companies start to mature and get ready for IPO markets. But outside of that, I'm seeing a lot of blockchain digital assets activity, a whole lot. Like clearly this administration has excited that industry as well. And to me, that's super. I love that space, right? I've been dabbling in that space sort of during this lull in the IPO market for the past couple of years, and it's super interesting to me. I find it crazy fun, right? Like crazy in a good way. Kind of like I used to feel about IPOs, right? Like this is why I've always liked IPOs, is they are kind of the craziest part of accounting that I could find. And so I see some of that in the digital asset space as well as the AI space. So and now the blockchain digital asset space is a little more mature, and so we're seeing some of those companies get to a really nice level to start talking about IPOs too. So between AI and blockchain, I've been keeping myself busy, but also keeping myself super interested. Now, they're not the only ones. Like, software's still alive, right? Fintech is still out there and going on. But it does feel like there's real excitement around the AI and digital asset space.
Of course, like a lot of us accountants are naturally skeptical about any kind of new trend. But over the course of the last month and with our own customer base, and we actually have a customer advisory board who we've kind of tapped every now and then to gauge their interest level and their excitement level around AI. And clearly in our last meeting, there was a unanimous consensus around this being here and this being valuable for driving further automations. And for myself personally, I mean, I think the way I've leveled up my own self through these tools is just mind blowing. And in the 25 years I've been in the accounting profession, nothing has really changed my day to day as much as AI has. So it's exciting, and yeah, it sounds like you're hearing the same.
What you're seeing is now every IPO company is some version of an AI company, right? We're just in that moment where that's kind of the sexy place to be, right? And if you go back 10 years ago, everybody was a platform. And you go back before that and everybody was SaaS. And then, everybody was the next, any case, like there's always this thing that every company that's going public kind of wants to be a part of. And right now, everybody wants to be some form of AI company. And I've heard I was listening to a podcast earlier, and they talked about how every software company is an AI company today. I'm not sure I'd go that far. I think it's super interesting, but really, if you're not utilizing AI to some degree, you are behind, right? Like everybody is using it. Yeah. And like you said, it's helped me level up. It's helped our teams level up. It's helped our clients level up. And I think it's going to create so much efficiency, because a lot of these things it was doing, we were very capable of doing them. Clients were very capable of doing them. Things like drafting footnotes and first draft of the MD&A and stuff like that. but to be able to get it done in just like that is crazy, right? So we're the review aspect of everything we do now is going to be that much more critical, because AI is not perfect. It still has its challenges and it hallucinates sometimes. And so certainly if you're using it in an area you're not familiar with, like I'm not a lawyer, so if I'm using it to look up legal stuff, that's a little precarious, right? I might want to make sure I have some reviews, but if I'm looking it up for IPO stuff, I mean, right on, right? Like I can easily verify what it's saying. So I think we're just sort of in the beginning phases of it, and I'm super excited about what it might be able to do down the road.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I have to stop myself sometimes to not invest too much time into dabbling into all these new solutions that are really effective in many different ways of anyone's jobs. It sounds like it's just very pervasive benefit now to like business in general. So I want to come back to AI towards the end there, but I want to spend a few minutes because I know our accounting audience here always interested in hearing, are there any kind of like trends specifically as it relates to IPO readiness, or has the playbook relatively stayed the same from last year or a few years ago?
Well, I know you wanted to take it away from AI, but I kind of need to bring it back, right? Because
Sure.
AI is what we're seeing, these companies. So I'll say this, right? Like during this sort of slowdown in IPOs the last couple of years, what it seems to me is that a lot of companies use this time very well to put themselves in a better position, and to be more mature and to be more prepared and to ultimately be more ready to go through the IPO process. And in large part because AI has been helping them get to this point. So, I think that the trend is that companies are getting better at doing a lot of the stuff that they used to need consultants to do. So, let's say a company that I would have talked to about IPO process, let's say a few years ago, I may have quoted a certain fee based on drafting their MD&A and drafting all these technical memos and drafting the footnotes and helping update for segments and EPS and all of this kind of stuff, right? And so some of these things like EPS, AI is not going to be terribly helpful. So we're still going to be really involved in that, and it's really hard. But these other things, AI has been able to help companies get a lot of these things prepared. So when we're coming in, we're not necessarily preparing first drafts, we're reviewing first drafts. And that actually takes away from a lot of the service that we were going to provide. And again, I say that in a good way, right? Like to where we can all use this time to be working on other things that are more valuable. So, to back up to your question, I think what we're seeing is just companies are better prepared. It seems like they use this time wisely to get their stuff together and to ultimately be more ready to go when the time is right for them.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it, Barrett. And I'm always like listening and thinking about how some of the points that you're making, may relate to Gapify and me someday, right? So obviously we have aspirations, along the lines of an IPO down the road, further down the road, of course. But if I think about engaging a firm for readiness, I would much rather, I value the time spent on the expertise and making sure a partner can help me navigate through the complexities of like the compliance and the regulations versus rolling forward an MD&A. So yeah, I think for companies like us, like that's where we want to leverage expert help, right? Not doing mechanical stuff. So yeah, it's great to hear that AI is kind of wanting to sit at the stage now where your firm's able to focus more on like the strategic part of supporting companies that are about to go public.
Right. And, we have our own internal AI tool at Deloitte it's been extremely helpful, right? Well, like we're not going out and using external tools. I use them personally and they're wonderful too. But like, just being able to have our own tool where we feel like we can safely use it. And I think that's important, right? Like we should stress that you probably shouldn't be going out and putting all of your private information into some sort of public anything, right? Like we just don't know kind of what that means. But if you are able to have a private one or we're able to use ours, it's really, it takes away some of that concern, right? And it's just so beneficial. I know I keep coming back to it, but like it really is a game changer at this point.
You're preaching to the choir. And unfortunately, I'm no longer in a role that was doing the type of drafting that we described as example. So I definitely part of drafting several S1s over the years. And for an accountant like me, it was always like very difficult to just get started, right? But now with AI, like we can have it start for you, and then I can use my brain on just like making sure that section on MD&A or that footnote disclosure
is man. Sometimes I would sit there like, and literally a client would be like, I just think we need to add 2 sentences, right? And so I go, okay, no problem, 2 sentences. I could sit there and just like rubbing my head, like, what? Where do I start? Like, I just need something, right? That is completely gone. No more of this brain freeze, no more of this like writer's block. It's just you go there and it gives you something and you can just dive right in and get started. I don't know if that's how everybody's brains works, but for me, right, it's been like magic.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. And and I'll just add one more example here, Barrett. But as I draft emails, sometimes especially on a Saturday morning where I've had a long week, sometimes whatever comes out of my brain just doesn't come out very organized. But I can just plop it into an email and just have AI make sense of it, and it's really fascinating, and it's really cool to think about how things have developed that quickly just in the last couple of years.
It can be really helpful with creating technical memos too. And again, it's not perfect. It will need review, but I've even talked to some clients that have like downloaded the various kind of big accounting firms, guidance and stuff, like actually put it into the prompt and been like, here's what we need to work off of, right? And like, here's our situation. And again, you're not putting private numbers in there or your names of the company and stuff. And can you give me a draft of the memo? And it's coming out with pretty good stuff, right? Like really an incredible first draft. And so I keep saying this because it's moved from like, what are the areas of technical, accounting? Like, is it rev rec? Is it stock comp? Is it derivatives? Is it whatever? To now it's kind of like they're all the same because we can all get to like that same sort of basic level of understanding like really quickly. Where before it would almost be like, I'd be talking to some people about these technical issues and it was just a black box, right? Like I'm basically talking to, like I might as well be talking in a different language. Like those challenges aren't really the same at all. Like, because you can have AI just say, hey, give this to me in plain English in 2 sentences, right? And it's like, holy cow, that's what they mean, right? Like, and so I'm digging it, man. I really don't know how to say it. Like I keep coming.
Well, and I think a lot of accountants now and accounting leaders I speak to, the tone has just changed dramatically.
Yeah.
I would say in the last 2 to 3 quarters. I mean, I think before it was like, how does this really fit in? And I think we're at the stage now where everyone's dabbling. Accounting leaders are understanding its powers, and specifically in our discussion here, just the value that it has for getting ready for an IPO and getting those technical memos started and drafts started. And clearly, those are game-changing tools to support in this traditionally complex and cumbersome process.
So, and I will say, like, so AI is great. It really has changed things. It really has made everything more efficient. IPOs are still hard, right? There's still a ton of work, and so it can't do everything yet. Maybe it will one day, but for now, there still are a lot of arms and legs involved with just kind of moving the mountain, if you will, right? Like it's still a big change to the organization. There's a lot of a learning curve, a lot of heartburn over a lot of these changes. There's a lot of turnover. All of this to say, like, it's still not something to be taken lightly. It's still a ton of work, but these tools are making it easier, no doubt.
Absolutely. And I think that's a great way of summarizing it. It's still difficult to IPO, but these tools allow us to tackle that difficult stuff. And that's where we should be spending our time anyway as humans with very sophisticated brains and powerful brains.
Yeah.
Not the mechanical stuff. I definitely had some AI questions for you in this call, but I'm just reflecting on when you first started joining our podcast, like what the conversations were, and then boom, here's AI, and this is how it's changing everything.
It really, I mean, and I think that's a sign, right? Like, when we did this podcast, last year or even 2 years ago, it was all IPOs, and we were probably talking about some digital assets, but it was still kind of your broader tech and SaaS and software and fintech. Fintech was really hot, right? But this is different. This feels different. This is like it's a big change.
Yeah, absolutely. And I bet when we reconnect for that next episode, there'll be more exciting changes to talk about, which is always great to have you on this, just to catch up about the IPO market and actually just like listen to ourselves, like, and how our conversations have evolved over time. So, Barrett, appreciate you coming on the show as always. And looking forward to having you back soon.
Thanks, man. It was great chatting with you, and look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Barrett.
Thanks for stopping by. We hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you want more information, please check us out at gapify.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.